Welcome from the break. We continue our lesson on how to create and manage formulas. At this point, we look at how we can edit a formula within a worksheet. Sometimes you may want to modify an existing formula, either to correct some mistake that was made or just to update the formula. To edit a formula, the steps are given to us as follows. 1. Select the cell containing the formula you want to edit. 2. Click the formula bar. Alternatively, instead of clicking the formula bar, you can also double-click the cell. And once you double-click the cell, the formula will be displayed within the cell for you. Step 3. Edit the formula. Step 4. When you are finished, press Enter on your keyboard or click the check mark in the formula bar. Once you do that, the formula will be updated and the new results will be displayed in the cell. Let us have a demonstration of this. So let's say we don't want to use this formula where we computed the additional costs and then added it to the old cost. We don't want this formula. We want to do everything in one formula as we did over here. That is, you want to find the additional cost and then add it to the existing cost or price in the same formula. So here we choose to modify the formula. So what we can do is to once we've selected the cell, we were told to select the cell. That is the first step. Then the second step is to come to the formula bar, and then the next step is to make the changes that you want. So here the formula would be K2 plus into bracket K2 multiplied by 5 divided by 100. Close this bracket and then you close the overall bracket as well. And then once we are done modifying the formula, the last step is to press the Enter key on your keyboard. Once you press the Enter key, you have modified your formula. The alternative was to double click the cell. So here I will double click the cell. Okay, so after double clicking the cell, you can now make the modifications. So I've selected the part of the formula I don't want, then I've deleted it, and I'll type the new formula. So 3 plus to bracket k 3 multiplied by into bracket 5/100, close bracket close. Alright, then once I am done modifying, I'll press the enter key and I am done. So these are the two ways of modifying a formula in your worksheet. Now let's come to the next content. We are going to learn how to copy formulas. Formulas can also be copied to adjacent cells with the fill handle. And when we copy formulas, it can save us a lot of time and effort that we will need to perform the very similar calculations multiple times in a worksheet. So if, let's say for instance, you have 100 students and you are to compute their CA, you cannot be typing all formulas for individual students. It will be very tedious. So Microsoft Excel gives us the opportunity to enter one of the formulas for one of the students and then copy that formula for all the other students once the formula that we were going to create would have been so similar to the first formula that we created. Let us look at the procedure for copying formulas. There are two ways. One is to copy formulas by dragging, and then the other is to copy formulas by paste. Let us look at how we copy formulas by dragging. The steps are given to us as follows. Step 1. Enter the formula into the first cell that is to contain the results. Step 2. Press enter key for results to be computed. Step 3. Click on the lower right corner of the cell to be propagated. So here when we talk about the cell to be propagated, we are looking at the cell containing the results. 4. Hold and drag along the column or row you are copying the formula to. Or you can also double click the plus sign to fill the entire column. That is if you don't want to hold and drag. Okay. Instead of click, hold and dragging, move your mouse to the lower right corner and double click when the cursor turns to a plus sign. Let us have a demonstration. So let me delete all these. So let's say we have typed, the first step is to type the formula into the first cell. So the formula is already typed. The second step was to press the enter key. So the enter key is already pressed. Now we have the results in here. This is our first cell to contain a result. Now you notice that the formula to compute this results here are similar to the ones that we are supposed to create for these other cells. So we don't need to type each one of them one after the other. We can just copy this formula to these remaining cells. And the next step was for you to put the mouse pointer on this right corner of the cell. You see where the square dot is. When you put the pointer on it, you notice that the mouse pointer symbol changes to plus. Now press and hold on that square dot and then drag it to to the cells that you want to copy the formula to. And when you have dragged to the last cell, then you release your finger from the mouse button, left mouse button. And once you do that, you notice that the formula has been copied. So that is a simpler way to copy formulas. Similarly, again we said after typing the formula and pressing the enter key, you put the mouse pointer on this square dot here. Then you drag the pointer downwards. Once you drag it down to the last cell, then you release your finger and the formula is recomputed for you. Alright, so that is one way. Or let me also use this. Instead of dragging, you can put the pointer on this square dot and then you double click that square dot. And once you double click that square dot, you notice that the formula is copied to these remaining cells. Okay, so these are one of the ways we can copy formulas. The alternative for copying formulas is by pasting, and the steps are given to us as follows. Step 1, you enter the formula into the first cell to contain results. Step 2, press enter key to calculate the results. Step 3, click on the cell to be propagated and copy it using the Ctrl and C shortcuts. Step 4, select the cells you want to copy the formula to, and then you paste using the Ctrl and V shortcut. Let us have a demonstration. I'm deleting these formulas. Okay, so let's say I want to copy this formula to these cells. So once the formula is already entered, I'll press Ctrl and C. I'll select the cell and then press Ctrl and C. So I've copied the formula. And then I'll click the cell that I want to copy the formula to. Okay. And then I'll press Ctrl and V. And once I press Ctrl and V, the formula is copied. I can also simply select all the remaining cells that are to contain the formula, and then after selecting all of them, I'll press Ctrl and V. And once I do that, the formula is also copied to them. So you don't have to copy and paste them from one cell to the next, to the next, and the next. It will be tedious. You can do so all at a go. Again, you select the cell containing the computed results. Okay, then you press Ctrl and C, then you select the cells that you want to copy the formula to, then you press Ctrl and V on your keyboard. Alright, so we have copied the formula. We have been mentioning cell references. At this point, we come to the concept of the types of cell references. So here we have different types of cell references, and we have 3 of them. They are named, the 3 types are named as relative cell reference, absolute cell reference, and mixed cell reference. Knowing the types of cell references becomes very important, especially in cases where you want to copy a formula to other cells but want certain operands to remain the same. Depending on the type, you may choose to make a part of the reference a constant or a variable. You know that a constant in the formula doesn't change, and a variable in the formula changes. Let us look at relative cell reference. In this form of cell reference, you do not make any cell part of the cell reference, that is either the row heading nor the column heading, constant. This means when the formula is copied, the column letter and row numbers will change to that of the cells beneath, beside, or above. That is, if you are depending on how the formula is copied. That is, the column and row used will remain variables wherever the formula is copied to. I hope you get it. With relative cell references, the column and row headings used when the formulas are copied, will remain as variables, irrespective of where the formula is copied to. This is the default type of cell reference in Microsoft Excel. That is, the relative cell reference is the default type of cell reference. Let us have a demonstration of this. So we have an example here. We have this computed results, and this is the formula used. Now, when any type of cell reference which, when the formula is copied, the column heading and the row heading changes, that type of cell reference is relative cell reference. So if I copy this formula here, you notice that instead of B2, the reference has changed to what? B3. Instead of C2, the reference has changed to C3, and so on and so forth. So when cell references are allowed to change to depict where a formula is being copied to, that cell reference is referred to as relative cell reference. I hope you get it now. So all these cell references fall under the relative cell references because they are allowed to change when they are copied. The next type of cell reference is the absolute cell reference. In this form of reference, you make all cell parts of the cell reference constant. So here we make the column heading constant and we make the row heading constant. So that this means when the formula is copied, the column letter and row number will not change no matter where the formula is copied to. In other words, here we are locking both the column and the row in the formula. To make both headings constant, you place the $sign in front of each of the headings. So you put dollar in front of the column heading and you put dollar in front of the row heading. And once you put the dollars in front of them, you have made the cell reference absolute cell reference. So as you can find here, normally this is the relative cell reference. But if you want to make this cell reference as absolute, it means you have to put dollar in front of the column heading and you put dollar in front of the row heading. Let us have a demonstration. So let's say that for this formula, the rate was typed over here as 0.06. Okay, the increase percentage is typed in this. So let me enter this formula. So it will be equal to this added to this. I hope you will remember when I say this, you remember the formula very well. Multiplied by, instead of typing the constant value, I'll use the rate of increase which is given to us here, which is what, 0.06. I'll click this cell because I want the system to always pick this value and multiply by whatever results, whatever values that are found in K12. So I'll close my bracket and then I'll press enter. Okay. Now notice that if I copy this formula down here, you look at this, you notice that instead of K12 multiplying K13 multiplying M11, it is rather multiplying what? M12. Okay, but M12 is empty, so it is multiplied by what? By 0. So you notice that from here, this cell here, which was copied, this cell reference here, which was copied to this cell, was relative, so that the cell reference is allowed to change. But we don't want it that way. We want it in such a way that anytime it is multiplying, it will come and pick the value in this cell. So how do we do that? We have to make this part of the formula, this cell reference, you have to make it absolute cell reference, so that no matter where the formula is copied to, always the value in this cell will be used in the computation. So what we have to do is, after entering the formula here, after entering the formula, we have to come to the formula bar and then type the $sign in front of M, and also type the $sign in front of 11. And when you are done, you press the enter key. Okay. Now let us copy this formula. I'm dragging it down. So once I dragged it down, let me select this cell. What do you see? It didn't change. Okay. Instead of this one changing to M12, it is still multiplying K13 by what? This cell, the contents of this cell, which is what? M11. You click the next one, the same thing, instead of K14 multiplying M13, because you have made M11 constant, it will what? Multiply the K14 by what? The contents of the cell. So no matter where we copy this formula to, the part of the formula that is made absolute will always remain the same in the formula. I hope you get it now. The last type of cell reference is the mixed cell reference. This type of cell reference is barely used in spreadsheet applications. In this type, you decide either to make the column letter or row number constant. That is, you make one of the two, which is either the column letter or row number constant. You don't make both constant. The part will remain variable. The part that remains as variable will change when the formula is copied. And the part that is made constant will be the same when the formula is copied. So here you can choose to make the column heading, as an example here, D. You can decide to make D as the constant, or you can decide to make the row heading 12 as constant by placing the dollar in front of the 12. So when you place the dollar in front of either the column heading or the row heading, then that type of cell reference is known as what? Mixed cell reference. A brief recollection. With relative cell type of cell reference, you don't place the dollar sign in front of any of the parts of the cell reference. So they are the column and then the row headings remain variables, which means they are allowed to change when the formulas are copied. With absolute, you place the dollar in front of the column heading and in front of the row heading. So here the column heading and row headings are made constant. Therefore, wherever you copy the formulas to, that cell reference in the formula will remain the same. It will not change in the formula. In the case of mixed cell reference, you place the dollar either in front of the row heading or column heading. You don't place it in front of both. That is what? Mixed cell reference. Let us have a demonstration. Let me enter some data here in use. So I'm just entering values, okay? So 12, 13, 18, then 10, 14, 9. Okay. Okay, let me take these ones out. So I want to multiply these values by, let's say, 16. I want to multiply all these values by what? By the value in this cell. Okay. So for mixed, I will type B23 multiplied by B25. But since I want this cell reference to be constant so that it will always pick the value in here, I'll click here and put the dollar here, click here and put the dollar here. Okay, then I'll press enter. What is the problem? Put dollar here, then put dollar here, then press enter. Okay. Alright, so there we have it. I'm copying this formula to these cells. Okay, so what do you see here? These are constants. Okay, so wherever I've copied this formula to, it is constant. Now I can decide that I want the, let me come here. Escape. Okay, so in this formula I want to make it mixed, so I can decide once it is mixed, one of the parts of the cell reference must be made constant and the other variable. So I'm clearing the dollar in front of B, then I'll press enter. Okay, so which means it's only the 23 that must remain constant, and then B remains variable, which means it is allowed to change. So I'm copying the formulas here. Okay, so what do you see? B has changed to C, but 23 remains what? Constant. And when you notice C, column C, 23 doesn't have any value here, so it will be 0. The 0 multiplied by 12 will be what? 0. I hope you get it now. So this type of cell reference, where one part of the reference is made constant and the other part is allowed to be a variable, is referred to as what? As mixed cell reference. So this brings us to the end of our second session on how to create and manage formulas. I hope that you will make time to practice. So as your assignment, I want you to enter this data here and then compute the sales, compute the quantity sold. So here we have the quantity received here, then the quantity remaining here, that is, then we have you are supposed to enter formulas that will compute the quantity sold for each of the products here. And then you compute the sales. You have to create formulas that will compute the sales, because each product, individual unit of the product price is given to us here. So you compute the sales and you compute the commission. So let's say that the retailer receives commission based on the number of amount of sales that he or she has made, and the commission rate is given to us as what? 0.2. So enter formulas here that will help us calculate the commission that the retailer will receive on each of the sales that have been made that were computed in this cell. Okay, you can pause the video and enter the data, and then you practice. All right, the second one, assignment, practical assignment, is for you to enter this data as well. Here we have the exercises of these students. Then we have the quiz here, and you have to find the total of the exercises and the quiz over here, which is what the sum of these three values. Okay, and then you find the 30% on the total, which is computed here. Then you come to the exam score here. You find, you enter a formula that will compute 70% of the exam score in this cell. Okay, and then for the total mark of the student, you add the computed results in this cell and that cell in here. So the sum of this, and that will give us the total score or mark over here. And when you are done, you copy the formulas down, okay, as you have learned. The last practical assignment is for you to right now we are going back to our accounting friends. So we have this spreadsheet, and it contains the wages of these people. Okay, now you are to enter a formula that will compute the allowances for each of these people over here. The allowance is 5% of the wages. This one is called the base wage. Okay, so the wage, 5% of the wages will be the allowance. And then after you have calculated the allowance, you are also supposed to calculate the gross salary for each one of them. And here the gross salary will be the sum of the wages and then the allowance. So you enter a formula that will compute that gross salary for us here. And then when you are done, you enter a formula that will compute the income tax. And here the income tax is given to us as 0.15. So here we want you to enter a formula that will compute the income tax on the gross salary, okay, using the income tax rate that is given in this cell. You should not enter the value. You should use this cell, the cell reference in which the value is contained in this cell, this cell. Okay, then you compute the SNIT, and the SNIT is also on the gross salary. Okay, and the SNIT rate is this. So you compute for each of the people or employees here. Then you must compute the net salary for each person. And here the net salary will be the deduction of the income tax and SNIT from the gross salary. That one will give us the net salary. So that is your third practical assignment. I would expect that you do this assignment, and then when we meet in the next session, we will see whether you got the answers right or wrong. Have a blessed day.